the D.C. Commission, there's been a special commission was assembled to review. It was called the D.C. Faces Working Group Recommendations, and this was to review the statues and memorials that exist in Washington, D.C. Logan, tell everybody a little bit of what was going on here first. When you see the list, folks, it's shocking.
They've put out a whole list, a whole document of statues, memorials, schools that they believe should be either replaced, removed, or explained, essentially put a reason why this should exist and to put it into its contextualized, essentially put it into context. You're talking about the Washington Monument, the George Washington statue that's along the George Washington Monument, Christopher Columbus, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, the Jefferson Memorial. This didn't just come out of thin air. They didn't just write an email that said, hey, we should replace the Washington Monument. This is a legitimate, thought-out thing from Mayor Bowser.
The idea that the contributions of George Washington to this city and this country are now somehow worthy of shame is just beyond me, Jay. And I'll just quickly say this, though. She's got a jurisdiction issue because some of these city buildings, city schools, they can unilaterally rename them. But these federal monuments, Jay, she has no jurisdiction to rename those. Those go through the federal government. And just for the record, the Interior Secretary says, not on my watch, never going to happen.
I see what we're trying to do is to rewrite the past and to take out of context the American dream and the American inheritance. I mean, for all you say about Thomas Jefferson, he's the author of the Declaration of Independence. George Washington, yes, he had ideas that are not consistent with what we do in the 21st century, but he was the founder of the country. And what does contextualized means? That, to me, is a leftist word for destroy and to denigrate something and to minimize it.
What is really interesting is of sort of the five imperatives, one of them is the violation of the district's human rights laws.
It's not just revisionist history. It's really absurd. And they're going to apply retroactively the D.C. human rights statute to our founders?
I mean, that's what it says, pretty clear as day.
Well, then have no monuments to any men because only men could vote.
Yeah, but no monuments. I mean, really, honestly, like I said, everyone is flawed, but to view people through a lens of today is nearly impossible for someone who was, by the way, famous 15 years ago, much less someone famous 200 years ago.
I sure hope this week or next week I don't violate some D.C. law that they're going to pass in the 22nd century or the 23rd century long after I'm gone, because that'd be pretty hard, Jay, to abide by laws that aren't written as I'm living today. But that's what we're looking at here.
We have to be realists in our history. We have to appreciate and understand the reality of what history means. History is the story of the human past with all its dirt, it's good, it's bad, it's evil, it's right, it's wrong. That's what it is. You don't ignore it. You don't destroy it. You live with it and you understand it. And most important, you learn from it.
This is a cancellation culture. When we say that, what are we talking about?
Well, essentially, Jay, we're talking about individuals who oppose reconciliation, who oppose, actually, American history. This is a massively ridiculous campaign that does nothing for the people of Washington, D.C., except make politicians feel better about themselves. The Democrats conveniently forget their own racist past. So are the members of the D.C. committee prepared to support the defunding, for instance, of the Democratic Party itself?
That's where my frustration comes in. I'm all for people having the right to say whatever they want to say. I'm pretty much an anti-censorship advocate. But when it comes to these kind of situations, you're right. You can't even look the person in the eye. You can't even talk to them because the hypocrisy is so evil and astounding that it's disturbing to your core.
This recommendation might seem unbelievable, but Jay, it has to be believable. It's here, and it has the mayor's support.